Hey there, my name is Javid and I would love to be your literature teacher. Saying that, the reason that you clicked on this video is because you want to know more about the poem The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Now, The Eagle is a short poem which consists of 2 stanzas, 3 lines each. The poem opens with the line, "He clasps the crag with crooked hands." Okay, good. Let us analyze the devices used here to make the line far more appealing. The first device used here is known as personification, where human qualities are awarded to non-humans like animals or objects. Note that the eagle is introduced with the wording he, and he has hands, not claws. Again, this is known as personification. The next notable literary device here is known as symbolism, where the eagle is a symbol of an authoritative figure, perhaps an emperor or a ruler or a dictator. What is important to understand here is, this poem is not entirely about the animal known as the eagle. Rather, as I mentioned before, the eagle is a symbol of power and a powerful individual, or in this case, like I said, an authoritative figure. The next literary device used here is called alliteration. Alliterations are the occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. In this case, the words are clasp, crag, and crooked. There is an eerie sound invoked when these words are mentioned in the same line. He clasps the crag with crooked hands. Again, it is called alliteration. Now obviously, our readers might be quite unfamiliar with the words clasp and crag. The word clasp is a verb, which means grasping or holding onto something tightly with one's hand. Now, what you can take out of the first line here is, the eagle holds on tightly to a rocky mountain. It is important to understand that the poet talks about the natural power of the eagle in the first line, where he says that the bird known as the eagle is capable of holding on tightly to a rocky mountain. Which brings us to the second line of the first stanza, close to the sun in lonely lands. Off the bat, the first literary device used here is known as hyperbole. Let's say that again, hyperbole. Now, it means exaggerated statements or claims not meant to be taken literally. Now, the poet does not mean that the eagle is close to the sun, which is physically impossible. The eagle is not physically close to the sun. However, the poet exaggerates and claims that the eagle has so much power. Also, it should be noted that the sun is a symbol of cosmic power. There is another literary device repeated in this line, which is lonely lands. As I mentioned before, the same sound or letter has been repeated in adjacent words. Lonely lands is also a symbol which talks about the mindset of the eagle and shows that the eagle stands alone and it has no allies. So the meaning of the second line is, the eagle is all powerful as the sun. However, it has no allies and it lives in solitude. Which brings us to the final line of the first stanza, ringed with the azure world he stands. The word ring here means wearing a ring as an ornament or a token of marriage, engagement, or authority. So it's easy to understand that the eagle is quite proud of the azure world. And this line talks about the magnitude where the eagle is involved with the azure world. The eagle is definitely proud of the azure world. Now it should be noted that there is another meaning for ringed in British ornithology. An ornithology being the science of studying birds. So, in this case, ringed means of a bird having an aluminium strip secure round the leg as a means of identification. So you can argue and you can say that the eagle identifies itself with the azure world. But what exactly is the azure world? Azure is an adjective which means the bright blue color of a cloudless sky. So it's safe to say that the azure world is indeed the sky. The next literary device that we are going to talk about here is visual imagery. Visual imagery is when the poet or the writer invokes a series of imagery which creates a scenery in the mind of the reader. So in this case, Ringed with the Azure World is a very powerful visual imagery, which is also another literary device. There is another symbol present in this line, which is he stands. In this case, stands is a symbol which communicates the word thrives. So, the eagle thrives in the so-called azure world. Hence, the communicated meaning of this line is the eagle is all-powerful and thrives in the sky. There is also another symbolism involved here, which is a king is untouchable in his kingdom. And that is the idea which is communicated through this line. And that is the end of the first stanza. The second stanza begins with the line, "The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls." The word wrinkle showcases old age or perhaps something that is very appealing. It is understandable that the eagle views the sea as an enemy or even its arch nemesis. There is another symbol present in that very line. The word crawling symbolizes the actions of a swarm of insects. So the eagle views the sea as a swarm of insects waiting for its downfall. This line right here shows how much the eagle despises the sea. Again, confirming that the sea is the eagle's arch nemesis. Which brings us to the second line of the second stanza. He watches from his mountain walls. The literary device which makes this line so appealing is known as metaphors, which is a figure of speech in which a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. In other words, the poet says that the walls are like mountains, but note that the poet has not used the word like, rather, he has said the mountains are indeed walls. Hence, it is understandable that mountain walls is the eagle's stronghold. Which brings us to the final line of the final stanza. And like a thunderbolt, he falls. The literary device used in this line is known as simile, a figure of speech involving the comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind, used to make a description more emphatic or vivid. Now, the best example for this is as brave as a lion. In this case, the simile present in the aforementioned line is like a thunderbolt. And now it is understandable that there might be a confusion between simile and metaphor. The metaphor used in this stanza was he watches from his mountain walls. However, the simile here is like a thunderbolt. Metaphor, mountain walls, simile, like a thunderbolt. The end goal of simile and metaphor are equal. However, similes uses the word like or as. That right there is the key difference between a simile and a metaphor. The other notable literary device here is auditory imagery. In this case, the word thunderbolt can be emphasized and creates this imagery in the mind of the reader. So we can picture the eagle falling down like a thunderbolt. The next literary device present in this line is communicated through the word falls. Now, falls is a symbol of death, demise, and failure. So no matter how powerful the eagle is, it had to face its inevitable demise, failure, or death. The moral of this poem is, no matter how powerful you are, no matter how great you may think that you are, failure, death, demise is inevitable. And that concludes my discussion about the poem The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. If you made it so far in the video, make sure to drop your comments, like, and subscribe.